Welcome to On the Chain. This is Jeff here with co-host Chip. What is up, Chip? Good to see you on. Man, today we're going to talk about the Ripple, the XRP, how much they want it. You've got it. They want it. I don't know. That was a good intro, Chip. So much going on. There's these crazy articles out there. Right before we started, I was looking at this article. It said XRP price must hold above 60 cents to avoid catastrophic collapse. Catastrophic. Let's get into some of this stuff. Man, you ready to go?
Let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
All right.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Yeah, so a lot of stuff going on with XRP, XDC, the big X's, right? So there's a lot of stuff happening there. And, we had a pretty nice conversation. It went by pretty quick yesterday with Quincy, had him on here. It was cool having him. And we did some things sort of got ignited on Twitter, people in this camp over here with this school of thought and people in this camp over here with a different school of thought. And we'll probably dive into it. And funny enough, Crypto Eddie put out 2 tweets where I really think it kind of like shows a little bit of kind of what's going on here. And let's dive into the subject matter.
Let's check it out. What's up, Legendary?
Legendary. That's just called out Legendary. Legend. So let's go into this here. This is what we're talking about. Image 2018. Imagine Ripple sued by the SEC tweet exchange with David Schwartz. Keep in mind, public blockchains are very democratic. But I'll jump into it right here. And let me.
Hey, before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to Jeff Beach on the west coast of Florida with Hurricane Ella, one of those.
Elsa.
I don't know what it is. Elsa. I was getting there. Hurricane Elsa is bearing down on the west coast of Florida and over there in Punta Gorda. So that storm, the outer bands, is going to start lashing against the shoreline over there. Tornadoes being spawned all over the place.
Got some weather today. Got a little bit of weather, rain, a little too much rain. They'll be past us tomorrow, which would be great. But this is a common occurrence in the summertime. You're like, what time is it? It's time for a hurricane.
It's hurricane time.
Hurricane time. So jumping in, you had big, said, imagine Ripple's being sued by the SEC. Now remember, this is 2018. This is basically 3 years ago. But imagine if Ripple was being sued by the SEC and they decided that Ripple had to sell and or destroy the XRP because it's an obvious security. What do you think happening to Ripple, and what do you think would happen to Ripple and XRP after that?
Man,
if they say they cannot, if they say they cannot touch XRP, they own.
Yep.
Of course, our pal David Schwartz, Chief Technical Officer and Chief Brainiac over there at Ripple, and according to Quincy, he is Satoshi Nakamoto. Ripple can't sell the XRP because it's locked in escrow. Weird, Jeff. That came up last night. We pointed that out last night. It can be destroyed. XRP would go on without Ripple and at a much smaller supply. At least that's what I'd expect to happen. And the way that would happen is there would have to be an amendment put forth. The validators would vote on it. The nodes would vote on it. They need 80% consensus, and they would say, "Hey, why don't we pull an XLM? Why don't we pull a Stellar Foundation and burn 50% of the supply?" And they put that as an amendment, and then that amendment goes forward. And guess what happens, Jeff? It's destroyed. And the fact that it's locked in escrow only allows them to take out 1 million, look to sell it on the open market. Can somebody buy it? Yeah, anybody can buy it. Quincy was saying last night, the Fed could buy it, but then that'd be a long ride. Every year, $1 billion for, that's
every
50 every month, right? It's a long,
about 5 years. 5 years of buying. But what are the chances, Chip? I mean, you get into it. I've been thinking about this, since we did the talk yesterday. You and I talked a little bit about it. But what are the possibilities that the Fed is going to buy into a decentralized asset to try to get some leverage when they don't control the validators. It would make more sense that they would start figuring out a way to consolidate validators while they're consolidating asset, but it's still decentralized. And right now, if that started happening, the validators could get together and say, hey, you know what? We're burning the entire supply. Escrow's gone, and they can burn it. And I think there was another, you put something up. There's a tweet on that also, that it would be up to them, that the Fed in that case would be a minority, and you'd have the validators as the majority making a decision saying, that's it, we're just going to burn it.
Yeah, this came up in December of 2020, an unrelated question. If the nodes, validators, and the community at large got together and we did agree it'd be better for the community to burn the 50 billion XRP Ripple has in escrow, would that be possible? David Schwartz, yes. There would be nothing that Ripple could do to stop that from happening. You know why, Jeff? Because it's decentralized. You know why? Because in a centralized world where the banks live in is not congruent, and it's not the banks don't want to participate in digital stuff. It's just that the very first letter of the CBDC is a centralized. Nobody wants centralized. Don't mistake it for blockchain. A digital representation of a fiat currency doesn't make it anything in the realm of blockchain or decentralization. And what he's saying is that the decentralization, they can't stop it. They can't pull the trigger. And this is another reason that XRP is not a security, is the fact that it is a decentralized asset. And there is nothing Ripple is selling now. 2013, maybe a different story. It says public blockchains are very democratic. If the majority wants the rules changed, there's nothing the minority can do to stop it.
That's it. Yeah, there is nothing. But so it's an interesting thought process. And it's one, a lot of others have brought up this idea of government stepping in to take away XRP and kind of banning retail holding of XRP like they did with gold, and putting some limitation on that. And then you think about, how would they go about taking over a decentralized asset? And if XRP was susceptible, that means all assets are susceptible. They couldn't just single out the one. And it almost, how would they accomplish something like that? Somebody else in the chat said, well, we're overseas where the majority of the movement of XRP goes on. How would they then take it away from people all over the world? They wouldn't. So they would still not have a majority. You would have those trying to burn it. It would create so much conflict and controversy as they try to take it over. It's just like, I'm trying to think of that mechanism of it happening. And yesterday when Quincy brought up, hey, maybe they'll buy it. Like, hey, you know what? I never thought about them stepping in to buy it. So let's dissect that and see what would happen if they did decide to buy it. And you start thinking about that. And you brought up some really, key tweets from David Schwartz, really indicating that if the majority decide, hey, we don't like what's going on, they decide to burn it, it gets burned. They could change the mechanism as it's ongoing. How could they stop it? Especially if the validators are outside the US.
That goes against everything the bank is into. They're about centralization. They're about control. If they can't control it. Now what the interesting thought here that I have is that the XRPL, what they could leverage, what the Fed and other central banks could leverage, the XRPL with the ODL, the on-demand liquidity, to be able to process payments and everything else. But they're going to control it from their end. They're going to process it, but it's going to move across the XRPL. And you're going to have a tremendous amount of volume because you're going to need a lot for the on-demand liquidity, right? This is something they can get behind. Now, there's a lot of conversations that have been floating around for years where, there's going to be one currency and this organization or that one. It's going to be, there's going to be somebody that's going to be able to buy it and control it. I don't know where that makes sense in any world, but here is another scenario of a bank, not a central bank, but a large bank, a very well-known bank in the UK. Check out what they pulled. Let's hear David Schwartz weigh in on this. So this right here, you have Alexandra Huck. She put this up. This was a message she got on her phone from Barclays. Barclays said, as you've made a payment to Binance this year, we want to let you know that we're stopping payments made by credit or debit card to them until further notice. This is to help you keep your money safe, Jeff. Jeff, they're going to keep your money safe, the bank. How about that? How about I tell you how I want to spend my money and you say, okay. How about I say, jump, and you ask me how high? I'm not going to sit there. I mean, they're going to keep it safe, Jeff. This is crazy, right? I mean,
Oh, they're going to keep it safe and they're going to keep it out of your hands so you can't do with what you want, you know. And then if there's ever a run on the banks, good luck getting your money out of it, you know. And that's, you know, that's definitely problematic. And that statement is problematic. What's going on over in Europe right now with Binance is problematic, you know, across the board. Did Binance step on somebody's toes that they shouldn't have stepped on? Are they growing a little too fast? You know, are they doing some things that are borderline in a gray regulatory area, you know, in the banking space? I think they are. And I think they're getting slapped back pretty hard right now by the brick and mortars. And that's where you get the slow roll, you know, you take it over little by little and you start getting in, and then eventually you're working with them. Eventually you're buying them. Eventually you're taking them over. Binance is blowing up like this, and the brick and mortar still control a lot of the essence in that, you know, economically speaking, and they just had to smack them down a little bit. Not going to impact Binance globally, maybe. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But it's an interesting predicament right now.
Right. The fallout already, it starts somewhere, right? There's it starts somewhere, and everyone goes, huh. So look at this. There's a couple of more tweets about this. So Barclays UK Help says, hey there, it's our responsibility to help protect your money. With this in mind, we've taken the decision to stop payments and blah, 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 keep your money safe. But this is perfect right here. I hope you're well. We're sad to hear you'll be leaving us, because someone said, hey, snap, Barclays account getting closed now. It says, we're sad to hear you're leaving us. It's our responsibility to help you protect your money. Well, how is it the responsibility, Jeff? You bank with a bank, and when you sign up with a bank, they go like, by the way, Jeff, I want to inform you that, just so you're aware, it's our responsibility to protect your money. Yeah, from a bank heist, but not for how I want to spend it.
Or hacking. Yeah, we're gonna protect your money so you can no longer get a mortgage. You can't. You're not gonna be able to go buy a car. You're not gonna go get that. You're not gonna be able to go get your collectibles. You're not gonna be able to go out to dinner. How about that?
Take the tube. I mean, what the hell? Why don't you take a bus? What are you walking?
Exactly.
Do a little more walking, man. You don't need a car. London's already
too crowded. That Baron Jelly over here says, at least Barclays let their customers know I'm with HSBC in the UK. Turns out I can't buy through Binance anymore. Just like that. No notification. Just, sorry, guys.
They quit. Yeah, they put out. Yeah, your phone blew up. You're like, oh, what's this? Oh, I can't buy anymore. And then obviously their help, Twitter handle. Hey, hope you're well. Sad to hear you'll be leaving us. It's our responsibility. Blah blah blah. With this in mind, we've taken a decision. And then so Dr. A says, hey, it's not your responsibility to dictate how adults spend their money. Bam, totally nailed it. And then off of this one right here, you saw David Schwartz picked up on this. He goes, we live in a world where banks protect people's money from being sent to the place they specifically asked to send it, where banks keep your money safe from going where you want it to go. We should break that down because that's brilliant. Right?
I like that. It's good, man. But they're supposed to protect your money, right? Like you said.
Yeah, but
protect it where it's going someplace where you don't want it to go.
Correct. And that's what he's saying. You are a place where you've asked to send it. Hey, by the way, could you send that to pay that bill? No. Why not? Well, we don't like that service. I didn't ask if you liked it. I just asked if you would, if you'd pay it or not.
Yeah, we don't like American Express. So sorry.
We're not going to
send your payment to Amex. Sorry, you owe them $10,000, but we're not going to pay them. Figure it out.
He goes on to say that meanwhile, governments have policies to make it very difficult for you to avoid using financial intermediaries whose policies dictate how you can spend your money. The war on cash is about forcing people to use intermediaries with unappealing power over your spending. And this is once again where the brilliance of David Schwartz comes in, because he says an incredibly a lot with a few words. And you have to, because it's Twitter. So there you go. But but breaking it down, I mean, it was beautifully how he tied in, it starts at the bank level and then it escalates up to the government, and the government are enforcing these policies, which, it's difficult for you to use a financial intermediary. So he's pretty much nailing it right there. And then someone asked, hey, if you could change it, how would you do it? He said the simplest patch by far is not a fix, is to prohibit financial institutions from refusing transactions or customers arbitrarily and without appeal. If the government's going to force us to use financial institutions, then they have to force financial institutions to serve us. Goes both ways, right? If you're going to be able to do that, we can dictate how you serve us.
Now, the one area where I agree, where the banks or the financial institutions have a little bit of leverage, is when you're using a credit card. If you're going, bank direct to the exchange, they should have no control over that. It's your money, your decision, you're sending it, that's it. But if you're using a credit card to buy money on an exchange or buy assets using the bank credit, that's a whole different scenario. If they want to block your credit card, then you have no control over that. And I don't even know if there's a debate, because they're extending you credit. They're not going to extend you credit to go and gamble with your money in a speculative environment. But they're going to let you go and buy all sorts of disposable product and electronics that depreciate over a 6-month period of time that have no value once you buy them. But at least it's tied to something. So at least,
But if you qualify for the credit, again, they're getting in between. Listen, there's gonna be people that are gonna be responsible in this world. There's people that are not gonna be responsible in this world, right? Some people are gonna go to clubs and blow it, $4 or $5 grand a night, and some people are gonna be like, hey, what do we need for the family, and how do we pay it back responsibly? So I mean, I don't know that they should have the say over that. He goes on to say that he discusses it more in this article here. And this is the article, The War on Cash, which we'll pull up here. But I kind of, there you go, Steam it. So this was...
there you go, you got to clean the dollar bills.
Yeah, you got to clean those bills, baby. So this is from 5 years ago on Steam it, written, he put it in the politics section here, so...
5 years ago.
5 years ago, and guess what? It's still the same game, right? It's been the unofficial policy of both the U.S. and many other countries to reduce the use of cash. Already, the $100 bills on the chopping block. The rationale is to combat tax evasion, money laundering, and terrorist financing. Where have we heard that before, Jeff? So they tell us that that's what Bitcoin is all about. Bitcoin is nefarious and it's only used by bad actors. And meanwhile, he's saying the rationale is to combat tax evasion and money laundering, right? And terrorist financing, right? You don't want to count out 100. When you're going in the millions of dollars, you don't count on $1 million $1. You want to reduce it. You want larger note sizes, right? And he says the war on cash is causing real harm. The most obvious casualty in this war is privacy. Some people care an awful lot about your privacy. That would be Apple, Jeff. Just saying, it's not the other one. And some people don't care all that much. If you care about privacy, there's nothing else I need to say. If you don't care about privacy, consider that our finances are one of the few things that people still do to try to keep private. And arguing that privacy doesn't matter just because there's nothing you need to keep private is like arguing that freedom of speech doesn't matter just because you have nothing to say.
That's right. You got nothing to say.
I have nothing to say, so you don't need freedom of speech, Jeff.
That's right. So 5 years ago, XRP was back in 2016. Let me see if if I'm in the right area. Yeah. So XRP hit an open at hang on, got to scroll all the way down. Don't know why it gave me this list. 0.0058. 0.005.
Is that the catastrophic crash we're all hoping for? Just give it to us for a couple of days.
Catastrophic crash going back to 2016.
So anyway, he gets into some other examples here, which I've actually heard some of the tweeting about this, but he talks about the entire KYC AML scheme as a massive due process violation. While the scheme manifests as private decisions, some private banks decide not to do business with some private business. The scheme exists because of laws, regulations, and court precedents. The bank is reducing regulatory and legal risk, right? So know your customer, AML. It's collecting all the information on you and your social security number and your bank account, your blood type, all that kind of stuff. They do it because they have to, because the regulation from whichever country, they want to know, they want to see how you're spending your money. And he's kind of making a point. It sort of is a violation on due process in a way, because they, like he says, that manifests as a private decision, but it's not private at all, you know. And if you're a private bank and where you're a bank that you don't want a public blockchain because of the privacy issue, which is why you had Ripple roll out their private blockchain, right? So that banks could take advantage of not publicizing everything their clients were doing. And especially in a scenario where it is transparent and it is a blockchain, private blockchains exist. Now, the CBDC is none of that. CBDC is just another, it's kind of what we already have. It's just a numerical representation, either on a computer screen, on a phone, on a paper. That's of an actual amount, which equates to fiat. And they call it digital, and we're supposed to jump up and down and say, yay, Jeff, it's digital. It's not blockchain.
We went digital with the central bank digital currency.
And did you ever think they would want, like, so the CBDC's got that tag, right? And the very first word of it, the centralized part, totally negates all of it, right? Every little bit of that. It's
like the central bank,
because there's no such thing as a decentralized, bank digital currency.
We're gonna allow the DBCD, the decentralized bank. What?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so he says, imagine almost any legal issue you want where a law would violate due process. For example, let's say that you wanted to make it illegal for people merely suspected of being terrorists to buy food. Certainly that would violate rights. But we can achieve that same effect by making grocery stores and restaurants legally responsible for ensuring that they take every precaution to ensure that someone they serve food to doesn't commit a terrorism offense.
Imagine that. Imagine the level that you'd have to go to, and it could get to that point. I mean, you see some of the chaos and insanity that's ensued around the world over this little thing, starts with a V. They put into your arm, and they've been talking about this, and they've been segregating population centers, and you can go in this end of the state, in this side of the stadium, or that side of the stadium, or you can go in the restaurant, or you can't go in the restaurant, and all this like chaos that's ensued. It's like, holy cow, and this is just like and this is the financial side of it. Imagine, Chip, imagine what they want to do, like with the digital yuan. Imagine what they want to do with the central bank digital currencies when they can truly have more, on their end, it would be more transparent control. On our end, we'd have no transparency, but now they're going to have full transparency to your own spending, transparency to how you're moving your money around, and then figure out how they're not going to. The digital yuan is a perfect representation with all the social scoring and all the other things that are going on over there, and how they're trying to, take, they're rolling out the Belt and Road Initiative throughout the region as they try to put a little bit of their influence economically on the different regional countries to get them to utilize the digital yuan, man. And then you got full control over it. And how is that different from the CBDC? But I'll tell you what, Chip, out of all this conversation, and we start off by talking about, if the Fed's going to come in or the government to take over the XRP. But with all of the CBDCs, the one thing, the commonality is the interoperability, which are the rails that connect and move all of the currency. So regardless if you have those CBDCs popping up, you still need to transfer in between them. And there's really only one viable product that is leading the charge in the marketplace. I'm going to say the only one, but one of the main viable products, which is RippleNet and ODL. What do you think of that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, you're right, Jeff. And why we focus on the things that don't matter, focus on what matters. One of the things that had been said for many, many years is that Ripple XRP will move all the money. When they say like, well, it's all the money. Well, Jeff and I, a couple of weeks ago, maybe we looked at all the money as it exists in a graphic representation. You go like, wow, you look at blockchain's merely a blip on this thing, a blip. It's so non-existent right now. Even when it gets to 2 trillion, 3 trillion market cap, it's nothing. When you start looking at all the money and how they move all the money, and you look at derivatives, and you look at all of these other things that are sitting out there, and you look at the amount of payments that are done, that every single bank moves money, and just in one day, in 24 hours, And there's that Dinah Washington song, which is amazing, that talks about what can happen in 24 hours, just a mere 24 hours, everything can potentially change. And that's kind of what we're probably going to see when XRP gets its flight instructions. It's like, yeah, okay, right now, is it go time? Yeah, it's go time. And that'll largely be determined when probably this lawsuit starts settling up and a lot of other things start moving out of the way. But one of the things that Quincy brought up last night, which I thought was a really good sort of perspective, was that in kind of reminding us that all of these coins and projects, they didn't start at the same time. They're not at the same level. It didn't matter if they were started 3 years ago. One project may be ahead of it, so that might be reflected in price. And so somebody out of the gate sees a better price. We're all looking at it as a market where, like, sometimes, same thing with the stock market. It's a little bit more mature. But, we kind of look at it like that, Jeff, right? We kind of compare. Well, Apple's doing this, but Tesla did this, and this one's up here, and this one. But with crypto projects, they have different use cases. They're playing in different sort of sandboxes. They're solving different sort of problems. Or they're not solving a problem at all. It's just a cute little cuddly dog or a kitten. And it's just kind of fun to purchase it and see where that might go. And it might come out as end up as a swap, and there might be some other things. And those are just fun. It's like, yeah, I'll throw $100 at that. What the heck? Why not? Right?
Talking about the Doge and the Shiba and the Akita and who knows what else.
And all of those little, and you can't even keep up with them anymore. It's so crazy, Jeff. So I want to bring up this story, Jeff, because I have to get your take on this, because this is a guy that you like to talk to a lot. And this is nothing other than Brad Sherman. You have dubbed him the Shermanator.
Shermanator.
And look at this, Jeff. What do you think about this? Congressman trying to shut down cryptocurrency gets the biggest donation from big banks and financial institutions.
Well, what did you expect? I mean, that's something that we've how many times have we referenced that? You just got to go back and see where the lobbyists are twisting their knife, a little bit. That's where the money flow is. So if their money flow and if that spigot is going to be shut off, the big financial institutions and the banks come to their key people within Congress. And I think a lot of people would be shocked. And I think they are shocked. You look at like the Shermanator and they're like, oh, we know the banks and the big financial institutions, they're going to be on the side of this one political party because they're about all, big business and all that. And then when it comes down to it, many times it's, all of them, but then the focus comes in on the ones that are always talking about, oh, we're there to help the little people and all this. And come to find out, hey, they really weren't there to help you. They were really there to help the big financial institutions and the banks. And the Shermanator gets caught with his hand in the cookie jar as he tries to continuously come after the crypto space. And lo and behold, Chip.
Well, the best quote is this one right here from him. It says right here, the Shermanator said cryptocurrencies are highly volatile. So if one person makes $1 million and 9 lose 100,000, and then Coinbase makes the money, and he gives this ridiculous argument.
The guy has no concept of anything.
See, they're even calling him the Shermanator inside this article, which I thought was interesting.
How do they call him the Shermanator? Oh, come on. They've been listening to our show.
It's spreading like wildfire,
Call him the Shermanator.
The Shermanator.
Shermanator.
He also claimed that evading the know your customer rules. The one thing cryptocurrencies have is an advantage. Oh yeah, like that was like secretly on the side, right? I mean,
they're avoiding the KYCs. Oh yeah, that's what they do.
It's unbelievable. So I got to get to the money part right here, because where's the money part? I got to find out what that is in here. Let's see if I can find out what they give him. All right, here we go. Here, let's break it down. According to OpenSecrets.org, the following financial companies rank among the Congressman Shermanator's biggest donators to his 2020 campaign. So check them out. They all look kind of familiar, right? They're all operating in that space. Deloitte, you got credit unions, Charles Schwab, Capital One, American Bankers Association. So you pay because you really want to make sure that you are getting your money's worth, and you want to bet your money, put it all on the guy, the Shermanator, because he's going to be the one guy on planet Earth that's going to say cryptocurrencies are bad, they should be banned, and everyone will laugh at him like like a carnival thing. It's like they'll just laugh at him. Funny. But I'm like, This offers insight into why Shermanator persists in seeking to ban cryptocurrency. Sure, such a restriction would deprive his constituents of the freedom to make their own investment decisions and shield their finances from stealth taxation via inflation.
Well, it's a big surprise. He's from California, so
California IA, Jeff.
that's right.
Everybody's going
Oh, there you
surfing.
go.
Surfing USA. XRP Speedball, thank you for that. He says the economy rises in the next 6 months. SEC case ends. XRP rises, sells 60%. Buy the new boat, the SS Deaton, and then disappear. Economy crashes 2022. Boom! What a good plan, man. The SS Deaton.
Well, the SS Deaton, I like it.
I love that. That's a great name, but you might want
to. It's not a 5-hour tour.
Yeah, you don't a 3-hour tour, Jeff. You don't want
3-hour tour.
You don't want that 3-hour tour because it didn't work out so good for Gilligan and crew, right? Preston and Marianne. And so, yeah, thank you for that. It sounds like a good plan, though. You might want to confer with, Mr. Deaton, make sure he's not got that sort of picked out. It could always be the SS Deaton 2, something, but I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I want to put this up here real quick. So, Buford Justice, 1 XRP is currently worth 2,140,000 Venezuelan bolivar. Now, did you see, in order to make it easier for transactions, they've now cut 6 zeros off of their currency. I've seen other countries do this over the years where they say, you know what, we're in the tens of thousands. Let's cut off all those zeros, go down to ones and tens. It'll be a lot easier for the people to transact. At some point it gets out of control. You can only do so many especially when you're dealing in millions. So they've cut 6 zeros off.
Yeah,
there you go. Like that's going to do something. Try to trick the people.
I think one time there was a radio station that played a trick, and you could get in this contest, and you had to touch a card for whoever touched it for the longest time without tapping out. You'd win $1 million, dollars, and it turned out to be pesos, and it was worth $100 or something. I was like, oh, is that it? Oh, we didn't say it was going to be US dollars, so it's, that kind of stuff goes on. It happens. What are you going to do?
Buford says, we'll all meet up at Jeremy Hogan's Island.
There you go.
It's good stuff.
Right there you go. Helmuth Castaneda says, Senator the fascist leftist Shermanator to Gitmo, today's problem solved now. Boom. The best part about that, Helmuth, is that sometimes you never interfere with your opponent because they are taking themselves out. That's the best part. It's never interfere when someone's in the process of destroying themselves. You'd be like, okay, yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. They just self-destruct. So you never want to interrupt your opponent. That's Sun Tzu. Is that what it is? Sun Tzu. Yeah, that's another.
Sun Tzu, yep. Hey, so I was checking out this thing on Twitter, right? I just want to play it real quick. Let me pull it up for a second.
Hogan's Heroes right there, Jeff. There's.
All right, yeah, let me just pull this up real quick. I want to get your feedback on this.
Wie einst Lily Marlin. Wie einst Lily Marlin.
I know who that is, Jeff. That's the Sir Johninator.
Sir Johninator.
That's the Sir Johninator. I know who that is. It's Sir Johninator. Yeah. Now I'm going to be singing that song all night. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate that. That's all good, Sir John. You're a good sport, man. We love you, man. You're an OG here. We love it.
Dude, check this out, man. John Pines. I searched XRP in Apple Podcasts and found you guys 2 months ago. Listened to you guys while I was driving around to my work every day. The fun part was trying to figure out who was who from the thumbnail.
Oh, that's something fun. We used to put our pictures out there. Well, I think we're still on the podcast ones, right?
Yeah, we are on the podcast. Yeah, no names on it.
It's a good story. Yeah, you're probably wondering. So, John, follow-up question: Did you accurately portray who you thought it was, or were you kind of oscillating back and forth? Because sometimes people will drop a comment. They'll be like, "Chip," or they'll say, "Jeff, stop talking over people." And it was an episode where I was talking over Jeff, and I'm like, they get us mixed up. Or they call Jeff, what do they call you, Jeff? Dr. Evil, something. I don't know. They have all kinds of
Dr. Evil.
So somebody called you Dr. Evil.
Somebody didn't call me Dr. Evil.
in one of the chats where they called you something like Dr. E. But
Oh
Jeff,
my God.
but think about it. It's always like what we always say on the show. Follow the money. Somebody said something happened. Okay, follow the money. That's connected over there. Okay, this makes sense. You can always learn that way, right?
Right. Look at HB1. You guys find it so funny. It's some drunk guy walking the streets late at night.
Excuse me, HBI. That's not some drunk. That's our OG, our
that's his
pal, our OC, our on the chain family, Surgeon.
Right.
And
Right.
I'll say
Walking
his
the
last
street.
name. His last name sounds something like this. I don't know. I can't
Yeah,
pronounce it.
It's our boy Sergio walking the streets late at night drunk.
That's right. Sing it and put it up on publicly Twitter. And I was like, let's take that right away, man. We got to have a bit of that. So, guys, if you're doing that and you're like walking around your city late at night and you just feel like singing, hey, man,
It might end up on here.
That tune could follow you around, right?
If I'm Dr. Evil, you're number 2.
Yeah, so Chris C says, hey, forgive my ignorance on this one.
Oops, sorry.
Holy cow. But and maybe somebody already asked the question today, but what are your thoughts on possibly? Well, possibly is an interesting word. I'm for it because it could happen or it couldn't happen. No, I don't know if I think it kind of cut out.
Typically not in favor of possibly.
Yeah, possibly. I just like absolutes right there,
Absolutely.
Like when people
absolute.
Like when people say try, they go like, I'll try to get that done by the end of the week. And I'm like, well, how about if I try to give you $1 million before this conversation's over? Do you think you'll have it? No. So don't try to do anything. Just do it. Okay. Tell me you're going to do it and commit to a date and get it done. Or if you don't commit to it, clean it up and say, hey, I missed that deadline, but here, I'm going to commit to this time. I'm going to try. I'm going to try to give you a million XRP before we end the show tonight. What are your chances of getting that when I try? Jeff, I'm trying right now. Look at me, Jeff. Sitting back trying. I'm trying hard. I'm trying.
Absolutely.
Christy, we didn't get the rest of that right there.
Yeah, put it back up again so we can.
John Doe says the SEC settling soon. Yeah, that was another thing that kind of came up where we kind of got into that. A settlement doesn't really. I don't know what comes out of a settlement, right? We kind of think that if you can't prove there was some negligence on Ripple's behalf as far as selling an unregistered security, they didn't register with the SEC first. They went ahead and sold it. Slap on the wrist. Okay, great. But I think there's precedent set by others in the space already, especially Ethereum Foundation. So they had a similar type of thing. I think this has to go all the way. It has to. You're not going to get clarity. It's not going to happen. Otherwise, it's just like, well, that was a waste of everyone's money. The attorneys made out, got a lot of money, and nothing. Retail investors, nothing.
Nope. All right. So Chris C, forgive my ignorance on this one. Maybe somebody already asked this question. If the XRP escrow is burned, what does that mean for the remaining XRP in retail?
It means there's less supply. It's more scarce. That's what it means. It means who's holding it. Ultimately, the Stellar Foundation did this, right? They went ahead and burned. They went and burnt the 50% of their supply. It's basically a fork of it's the kid sister, if you will, to XRP. They burned 50 billion. Didn't have much of an effect on price or anything, but 50 billion is still a lot. But there's a reason they started out with 100 billion, because if you're going to move all the money, you're going to need that, and plus you have the escrow that's locked up right now. They burned it. I don't know what it means. I think it just means it's less scarce, really, quite honestly, and you don't have as much to move. Do you think
it's going to impact ODL? Is it going to impact, because right now the money that comes out of escrow, in many cases, it's being used to help facilitate implementation of RippleNet or even utilize somewhat in the ODL. Do you think it's going to have an impact? Here, the question is, what's going to happen for the XRP in retail? But I think the question is much broader. It's not so much what's going to happen to retail. It's going to be what's going to happen to all of the various projects in the space. Primarily what RippleNet's doing. Do you think, or Ripple is doing, do you think by burning the escrow, it would have a detrimental impact on what they're doing and on ODL?
Potentially could, it could impact. Look, you burn half the supply, what does that mean? I don't see there's a big reason to do that. I know people think, oh, because it's more scarce, but they've got big plans for that, right? And and over a period of time, a little bit of that gets burnt each time. It's small, but you want a big runway for that. You don't want to lessen that. I've never been a proponent of burning 50% of the supply, and the best sort of scenario we can look at is Stellar with the XLM token. I don't know that price was even impacted.
Yep. Yeah. So, hey, so check this out. This goes back to what you brought up in terms of a settlement. Now, a settlement doesn't necessarily bring finality. And we brought up with what happened with Kick and the Kin token, there might have been some clarity as far as what Kick could or couldn't do, but they left the retail investors kind of in the lurch with no outcome. There was still, can we sell it? Can we not sell it? It's a security, but we hold it. Now, what are we supposed to do with it? There was no clarity for the retail investor at that point as it referenced Kin. Now, in this scenario, Chip, your feedback on this, what happens if there's a settlement, Ripple pays their fine, they go back to business, but no clarity?
But I bring it back to what Brad Garlinghouse said, nothing that I've any sort of introspection into, but he said that they attempted to settle with the SEC prior to that lawsuit getting filed. We know there was 2.5 years of discovery. We know that because it was in the initial court doc, especially when they were suspending that 5-year period that they could go back. They had different periods, and that went back almost 2 years. So Brad Garlinghouse came out public and said they try to settle, but why wouldn't you want to settle? If you settle and say, okay, pay a fine, great. So now you've did yourself a tremendous disservice, and you've done a tremendous disservice to retail XRP investors, because you're like, okay, what happened? Somebody paid some money. It doesn't solve anything. And I got into this the other day on Twitter with Lionel, where he said, well, Kick, they got clarity. They didn't get clarity. They got finality, right? They got finality at that. But again, comparing an initial coin offering is very different than what we're dealing with Ripple when they sold an unregistered security. That's an open shut case. Yeah, there's no hiding from the fact that they did initial coin offering, did not register with the SEC, and they got slapped. And they didn't help their case with going very public, saying they're going to take them down, they're going to cut their legs out from it. All kinds of craziness ensued. And at the end of it, they got, what was it, Jeff, a $5 million fine? So
that's all it was.
Okay, I get you, John Doe. Thank you. He was just, John Doe was finishing up a comment. That's why when he was saying about the whole settlement. So I appreciate that, because that seemed like a weird comment coming from you. But you never know.
Hey, so who brought this up? Oh, Lottie Dottie. So New York. So Eric Adams, ex-police chief, I think. I think he was an ex-police chief. He has won the primary for mayor of New York City, Democrat primary.
Yeah, he's not going to be the mayor.
So what's going on?
Well,
so he says he wants to make New York the center of Bitcoins. But I'm looking through this right now. I mean, he's going to have to go. So you have Curtis Sliwa on the Republican side.
You remember Curtis?
Founder of Guardian Angels. Oh yeah,
Guardian Angels going back to the 80s. He was just a young kid. He was a young kid that just wanted to help. The Guardian Angels would go in the subways, and they would sort of, because there was a part of time before even Giuliani came in the 90s where New York was a tough place to be, man. It's like you were afraid to drive, even in broad daylight, right? It's sort of becoming that place again, because it's sort of
now.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like now. Now the aspirations are big and everything. I'm not so sure that he's not the new mayor. He won the primary for mayor, and that's pretty much, he still has to go against a Republican opponent. You think, well, he probably can't win in New York with all the stuff going on with that happened in that city and how people got hurt. I mean, look, it's very possible someone like Curtis can get in there. It's possible that I don't know who the leader is in the Republican side, but I think sometimes people go like, it's time for a different idea. It's time for something new. And you still have to have the economic policies. You still have everything
What did he
else.
say? But what did he say about Bitcoin? I haven't seen anything on Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, I saw a lot. I saw a tremendous amount. He wants New York to be the center, basically, of Bitcoin. But the problem he's going to run into is that just because you want to do something doesn't mean that you're going to get the regulatory clarity from the you still got to deal with the laws because you're the mayor of New York. You're still residing in the state of New York, which is a very bad move, by the way, Jeff. Naming the state and the city the same thing. It's like I live in Miami. It's like I live in Florida, and on Florida instead of Miami, they named it Florida, and then they talked about Florida, and Florida is the state, and Florida was the city. It's just it was a bad move. They should have left it New Amsterdam. That's
But this is interesting though, because you want New York to be the Bitcoin hub, but New York is extremely difficult and intolerant of a lot of what's going on in the crypto space. I don't want to say intolerant per se, but they're extremely difficult to get any type of licensing through. Really, really strict. Now it's interesting. That's his passion. That's what he wants to do. I'm finding this interesting narrative because you see what's going on in Tampa. You see what's going on in Miami. We see what's going on in the state of Wyoming. We see what's going on, I think, in Iowa and in some of the other states that are becoming more crypto friendly. But this could be a good trend, or are they just trying to get on the bandwagon to differentiate themselves a little bit?
Yeah, it could be something like that. But I also pulled a little bit of nonsense too, because they had 170,000 probably not a topic we should really get into. But anyway, I want to get into Kermit Z Frog UK. Thank you for that. He says, think what will kill me is the 1 XRP cost every time you move from cold wallet to an exchange, especially at 4 to 5 figures. That is an interesting problem to have, and I can't wait to get the problem. I hope that I get infected with that problem, and I hope it becomes tremendously burdensome. But yeah, that is actually a really sort of a good look on that, because it'd be like, oh man, can you believe that I got to pay this just to move from cold storage just to be able to do something with it? Or yeah, I mean, again, I always think of like, if you're paying a lot of taxes, it's a good problem to have. Nobody wants to pay taxes, but no one complains about, my problem is not paying enough taxes. No one ever does that. No one ever complains about. So
hey, Mel G made it, so we might as well start over again.
Hola, OTC, she says.
Mel is on a different schedule, so it makes it a little harder to get on live. So
that's okay. That's all right. Well, we appreciate you coming in. And
awesome.
You can always watch it back. That's the best thing about the show is you can watch it back and you can always see it. And quite honestly, that we see probably, I'd say like 75% of the viewership is after the show airs. So it's it's a kind of an interesting stat. Yeah, here's another one too. Yes, that in New York City, the murder rate is up over 200%. So yeah, there's a lot of things you have to contend with. But if you focus on the shiny object that everyone says, oh, that's interesting, you got to know the whole thing. What's the economic policy? Because it's really hard to go in there. I mean, look at Gary Gensler. Gary Gensler, they go, hey, we'll nominate you to be the chairman of the SEC. Is like, they swallow hard because he's walking into a mess that Jay Clayton, did a bunch of stuff. Then he's going to come in and sort of deal with that. Same thing, you have a new mayor going in New York. A lot of stuff's transpired over 2 terms that just have taken the city down. And to kind of come in, you're sort of like a trout swimming against the the opposite direction already. Not to mention the fact, so you got to watch the shiny objects. The shiny objects are fun and they're exciting, but you got to look at what it could be.
That's right, Chip. So there's all sorts of misinformation that kind of gets passed around. And one of them, so there's a power plant in the Finger Lake region. Now, I don't know all the backstory, didn't do a huge amount of digging through, but I've looked at a couple of these articles. And so the idea behind a lot of these articles is that this Bitcoin power plant is turning a 12,000-year-old glacial lake into a hot tub because it's the fault of the Bitcoin mining. Now, this was a coal power plant that this investment group bought into, converted it to running off and burning natural gas in order they were going to somehow sell off power when there was overages and they needed more power. So they came up with this whole idea. So time goes by a little bit. They realized that, maybe they should start mining Bitcoin. So as of February 2021, they've mined 1,100 Bitcoin at this plant, at this power plant. And here it says they're using, what does MW stand for? Megawatts?
Yeah, I think so.
So they've used 85 of the station's total 108 megawatt capacity, if that's what MW stands for. So it's interesting because they're referencing that, there's no burn off pollution, anything like that, but they're picking on Bitcoin again with this whole idea of being power burdensome. But I can't believe that this stuff would go on before, because this power plant was actually dumping water into this glacier lake at temperatures of like 108 degrees. And they're dumping about 135 million gallons per day. That's the permit that they have. It tells you how much they've dumped. But the thing is, it's actually been generating and doing this for a long time. Really had nothing to do with Bitcoin to start out with, but now they're expanding in the Bitcoin space, and it's kind of crazy. I mean, I don't even know what to make of this article. I mean, it's like they keep focusing Bitcoin. Like every turn you make,
Right.
It's some like economic or ecological disaster stemming from the mining of Bitcoin. And I'm like, but the power was already being generated. That plant was already approved to power other things.
Right.
And they're in this article. I closed it already. But one of the statements was from a resident that said, well, when I used to get my power from the power plant, I was kind of okay with it. But now that they're mining Bitcoin, oh, it's the worst thing ever. I'm like, well, since you were good with it because you were benefiting directly, you're okay destroying the lake. But now that it's going to Bitcoin mining, not so happy about it.
Well, it's because that's what happens when you want to spread, what do they say? A lie travels around the world in a second. The truth takes a little bit longer to get around. But when you're trying to destroy the narrative, it's like we say, look at who is being funded, look who's paying to kind of keep, it's a narrative that they're trying to keep alive. But I look at, a lot of cool stuff's happened in Germany recently. And if you're German in the podcast, go ahead and drop your name in there. But this N26 bank, which I've been keeping my eye on, German neobank, N26, working with top tier crypto exchanges on a new trading feature. So they want to incorporate that. And I think we looked at N26, and it's actually starting to get a little bit bigger in the US as well. It's the fastest. It's the latest in a growing line of, I'm sure, advertisements. There we go. Thank you. Growing line of fintech firms that branch out into the crypto space. It's expanding its marketplace enablement team to spur on development of its crypto products. N26, the Berlin-based neobank, valued right now at 3.5 billion. This thing is going to blow up, this bank right here, because they're doing things a little bit different. If you guys look at N26, they're basically only online. They don't have like brick and mortars, I believe, if I'm saying that correctly. Planning to launch crypto trading tools as part of the new marketplace. But Jeff, this just ties into the whole thing. And then we saw Germany have some legislation recently that's going to allow the institutionals to be able to get into the marketplace. This kind of movement that is happening in Europe, especially in Germany, is really great for the space, because you have Germany, who's one of the leaders in I always look at design coming out of Germany. It's always top notch, some of the best designs, whether it's cars, product design, whatever. It's just like it just has this level that's probably top in the world. And now you have them leading in Europe because they're bold, right? They're going to go out there and say, hey, we are doing this. We're going to let institutionals get into crypto. We are now going to let N26, they're going to start doing it. You got a fintech taking advantage of it. I think ultimately, man, this kind of news in the space, although it's not, well, how's it going to raise my, my digital asset that I bought? Well, that it's called mass adoption. And so if they're worth 3.5 billion, before long, they're going to be worth 10 billion, and they're going to expand. And more people are going to get on. More people are going to find it easier to buy crypto products. And it's really part of the mass adoption principle that has been underway for like the past couple of years now.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's interesting because the more you have these naysayers come to the surface, the more you realize that you're kind of going in the right direction. That something is unfolding that is beneficial, that is changing things to, for the better, and is more, I don't want to use the word, let's use decentralized, supporting of freedoms on a global scale. And I think that's what's so significant. And that's where you're starting to get these banks and these institutions, the ones that, are trying to buy time. They're trying to hold on to their power position without getting actively involved in the fintech or the crypto space. And that's the resistance that we're seeing, and so when you have these types of entities, Chip, that are growing up and they're coming in, if they just all of a sudden grew up and there was no conflict, you would have to worry and say, hey, what's going on here, because that means that they're playing very closely. Think about PayPal and a lot of those others. Were they truly revolutionary in terms of replacing the banking infrastructure? They really weren't. They were just another mechanism working with the banks to help facilitate online transactions, primarily eBay in the early days. Then they kind of branched off, became a payment hub, but not so much a banking hub, more of, just a transactional. Now, obviously, things are shifting and changing. But what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, back in the day, I remember buying stuff on eBay. It's like it was so much friction to pay a particular vendor, just somebody selling something, and you're trying to get them a payment. So when they basically integrated PayPal, it took all that friction away. So the banks didn't help out. You couldn't connect your bank account. You couldn't effectively pay somebody. You'd send them a check, and 3 weeks later, you'd receive a product. So the whole idea of putting that online, although it wasn't revolutionary in the sense that it was something new, it certainly was different. And I wanted to go into, this is right from N26's homepage. Mobile banking the world loves. Think banking can't be fast, flexible, and transparent. Think again. Open an account. And I want to show you some of the things why they're getting so much traction. You get cash back when you spend with N26. They don't have hidden fees. Now, this one, I don't know about the rest of the world, but this is a huge problem in the States with these hidden fees. You're getting hammered for everything. You set up an account on your phone in 5 minutes, you're banking, right? So again, it's real easy for anybody to get a bank up and running. You don't have all these, there are no insufficient fund fees. So if you get hit with something where, I don't know, your account gets overdrawn, you're not going to get a $35, $45 charge. They're like, it's no problem. Free cash withdrawals, you're not paying that $3 to $5 ATM sort of a rate. They have their own network, and if you're out of network, you get 2 withdrawals per month. That's if you're still using fiat currency. You get paid early. You get paid up to 2 days early with N26. Spend money. So they're improving on the problems that exist in the banking structure. It's on your phone. They're like, since it's on our phone, we can do stuff because we don't have all the real estate we have to take care of, and all of the problems. Save money faster with spaces. Whether you're saving your next vacation. You can set up a space and basically like a savings account, fast and secure cashless payments. It's where if you're paying attention where the smart money is moving and on the fintechs. And I really like N26. It's pretty cool.
Sounds cool. But sounds cool too. Where do you bank at? N26.
I bank at 027. I'm at A01. Think about that, Jeff. It's just like A01.
So check this out. Our boy Alex Mashinsky from Celsius.
Yes.
So so the interesting statement here. He's saying that Ethereum is flipping Bitcoin. And he said it's happening at a much faster clip. And he looks at some of the things that are going on within his platform. He said here, Ethereum already surpassed Bitcoin in dollar terms as shown in the total holding of the Celsius community. And I think that the broader market will follow it in the next year or two. We will see that flipping happening in the broader market. And he's not just pie in the sky saying, hey, here's something because I think, but he's looking at his own platform and he's really pulling together a very concrete observation of what's happening. Now, that doesn't mean that Bitcoin's going to zero. That doesn't mean that, Ethereum's going to 30,000, but that the movement of the interest and accumulation of Ethereum over Bitcoin is happening at a rapid pace. Still, everything moving up. It's interesting to see that kind of an outcome, the kind of data that he's able to pull out of his exchange to really see the direction of markets moving in.
Right. He's put and again, he doesn't make these loose statements. I saw him qualify something in a tweet saying, no, let's drill down even further. So I always like when he qualifies. It's not just pulling it out of his, wherever. Look at Lucas Wise says N26 rocks. I'm guessing Lucas, you probably bank with N26. But again, your mobile phone, yeah, right here. So Nintendo Contra says N26 versus Wise. I'll have to check them out. I use TransferWise now, but I'll have to check them out. It's pretty cool. Then we've got
Payoneer.
Then we've got XRP Speedboat. Thank you for that, Chip and Jeff. Drive-by banking. Boom. Boom. There you go. Drive-by banking. Boom. Boom. Sudan says, he was talking about somebody else. I thought he was Ethereum's London's hard fork will launch in August 2020. That's right. I think it's been moved to 2029 now. I think he's like filling the blank. Who knows? Gotcha. Nobody knows. It's like it was supposed to happen 2 years ago, then a year ago, then whenever, and the mining fees are going to drop tremendously. So, but again, when those drop, Ethereum is not going away anytime soon. And once they remove that friction point, there's going to be a lot of potential possibility there. And it's my turn to remind you guys, if it's your first time here, or if you've been watching for a little bit and you haven't subscribed yet, think about subscribing. If you're listening on the podcast, go ahead and follow us. That way, anytime we drop a new podcast, you'll be able to know, and it'll show up on your little whatever podcast you're using, whether it's Spotify or Apple or Google. And Jeff, how many times a week do we broadcast live?
1, 2, 3, 6.
Okay,
we actually broadcast and stream 6 days a week, Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you guys can join us with a nice cup of espresso, and we go through a ton of stuff. It's like going to the deep end. You're just waking up and all groggy and like, oh my God, what did I just get hit with?
Or it's like afternoon over in Europe, or it's
that's
like
a good
very
point.
late night in Australia, and you're like, I'm busy with my life. I don't have time to watch you guys.
Yeah. Or it's late afternoon over in Europe, and you're just getting up and you're all groggy from the night before. Drinking.
You know what I was thinking about? An oldie but a goodie, man. You got to just crank that puppy up. All right, everybody. That's all we have for tonight, but come back tomorrow night. Come back tomorrow. Check us out. We'll have some more good stories to talk to. Again, we only got, I think we touched 20% of the stories, Jeff, if that. There were so many today, and we always put more than we can actually get to. But, it's kind of like when you go on
tomorrow night.
It's like when you go on vacation, Jeff, it's like you don't want to say, like, I'm going for 3 days. I'm going to wear this, this, and this. No, you want to have 6 things because you go, like, I'm not in the mood to wear that today. I don't know. Maybe
that's right.
Maybe that's just me, but I don't know.
Another one from XRP Speedboat, espresso and walking drunk, guys.
That's right. Espresso and what could be better? I mean, a match made in heaven, right?
The two go together well. I don't think he was
drunk. I think he was
can't
just
deny
happy.
that.
Right.
Well, that too.
All right,
happy.
Guys. Have a good
happy
one,
drunk.
and we'll see you on the next one. Chip and Jeff out.
Let's go.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.